Hi guys, Tuesday 30th of April, it's gone midday here. Going to have a quick look over the markets, how we're currently trading going into the US session, in particular looking at the US equities and oil. Just starting with the Nasdaq, you can see the push low we had yesterday evening, Alphabet shares coming down as low as 7%. So one to keep an eye on as we come into the US Open. Levels to be aware of: the pivot today, which also marks up the previous low of yesterday before that breakdown, would be an area I'd have of interest. And if we would get above that into the back end of the session, up towards the R1 and the previous break around 78.54 would be quite an interesting level to keep an eye on. Also, if I just lower this time frame down, the trend line marked up from that low of the day has been respected quite well already this morning, going into just the turn of the hour. A break of that could start to see a further push lower, and if we do get that, S1 low of the day may come quite quickly. However, it would be a case, I would say, of just sort of waiting to see what happens in or on the open. If we do get a decent push higher, the trend line marking up from Friday to yesterday's high would also look to come in around that R2 previous all-time high as well. Dow Jones slightly more confound between yesterday's high and low. You can see this trend line from the low of the 25th is definitely worth having on, and at the same time that one with the Nasdaq, if both of those are to go in a couple of hours or so, then you might start to see a further push lower. But for now, price is getting squeezed to the upside. Those lows are getting higher, but really key resistance going back to the 25th, the high of the 25th, which was the low on the 24th that we saw as well. A breakthrough of that, and you can get a fast money move higher, and 26,000 in the futures may come quite quickly. S&P, similar trend line, but not reached to the downside as of yet. Starting on the 18th, push through quite nicely, but for now the pivot holding firm. If we were to have a bearish cash open, I would look to have a trend line on similar here, 1, 2, 3. How we then react around this level would be pretty key in determining where price action goes for the remainder, well, of the day, but the week as well. If we were to break through, it could open the door up, and then suddenly we're looking at last week's lows around 29.14 above the pivot, and then we're looking to get to a sort of new high for the year, and all-time high with that on the futures market. And it wouldn't be too out of the question to expect either of those, the way this market has been moving. Oil, which has recovered quite nicely this morning, we broke above yesterday's high, and since then it hasn't looked back. Really key resistance, however, 64.73 on the futures was the high back on the 9th, 10th, 12th and 17th before the breakthrough on the 22nd. We then broke through to the downside on Friday, but looking at this point from an area of resistance will be pretty key. If we get above that, you'll have the full Friday reversal completed for this market. That still overall you would say is an uptrend, but some important resistance coming up just as we're speaking. Looking at quickly at the calendar for the afternoon UK time, got some GDP numbers month on month out of Canada at 1:30, before Chicago PMI and consumer confidence 2:45 and 3 o'clock respectively, before the API coming out this evening. Any questions as usual, please do let me know, but I hope you'll have a good session ahead.